CIS member state. The politics of Kyrgyzstan, officially known as the Kyrgyz Republic, takes place in the framework of a parliamentary representative democratic republic, whereby the president is head of state and the prime minister of Kyrgyzstan is head of government. Executive power is exercised by the government. Legislative power is vested in both the government and parliament. The Economist Intelligence Unit rated Kyrgyzstan a hybrid regime in 2019. In the first years of Kyrgyzstan's full independence, President Askar Akayev appeared wholeheartedly committed to the reform process. However, despite the backing of major Western donors, including the International Monetary Fund, Kyrgyzstan had consequential economic difficulties from the outset. These came mainly as a result of the breakup of the Soviet trade bloc, which impeded the republic's smooth transfer to a free market economy. In 1993, allegations of corruption against Akayev's closest political associates blossomed into a major scandal. One of those accused of improprieties was Vice President Felix Kulov, who resigned for ethical reasons in December. Following Kulov's resignation, Akayev dismissed the government and called upon the last communist premier, Abbas Jaragulov, to form a new one. In January 1994, Akayev initiated a referendum asking for a renewed mandate to complete his term of office. He received 96.2% of the vote. A new constitution was passed by the parliament in May 1993. In 1994, however, the parliament failed to produce a quorum for its last scheduled session prior to the expiration of its term. President Akayev was widely accused of having manipulated a boycott by a majority of the parliamentarians. Akayev, in turn, asserted that the communists had caused a political crisis by preventing the legislature from fulfilling its role. Akayev scheduled an October 1994 referendum, overwhelmingly approved by voters, that proposed two amendments to the constitution. One that would allow the constitution to be amended by means of a referendum, and the other creating a new bicameral parliament called the Jogru Kenesh. Elections for the two legislative chambers, a 35-seat full-time assembly and a 70-seat part-time assembly, were held in February 1995 after campaigns considered remarkably free and open by most international observers, although the election day proceedings were marred by widespread irregularities. Independent candidates won most of the seats, suggesting that personalities prevailed over ideologies. The new parliament convened its initial session in March 1995. One of its first orders of business was the approval of the precise constitutional language on the role of the legislature. Kyrgyzstan's independent political parties competed in the 1996 parliamentary elections. A February 1996 referendum, in violation of the constitution and the law on referendums, amended the constitution to give President Akayev more power. It also removed the clause that parliamentarians be directly elected by universal suffrage. Although the changes gave the president the power to dissolve parliament, it also more clearly defined parliament's powers. Since that time, parliament has demonstrated real independence from the executive branch. An October 1998 referendum approved constitutional changes, including increasing the number of deputies in the upper house, reducing the number of deputies in the lower house, rolling back parliamentary immunity, reforming land tender rules, and reforming the state budget. Two rounds of parliamentary elections were held on the 20th of February 2000 and the 12th of March 2000. With the full backing of the United States, the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe reported that the elections failed to comply with commitments to free and fair elections and hence were invalid. Questionable judicial proceedings against opposition candidates and parties limited the choice of candidates available to Kyrgyz voters, while state-controlled media reported favorably on official candidates only and government officials put pressure on independent media outlets that favored the opposition. In 2002, Azambek Beknazarov, a leading opposition figure, was imprisoned by the local authorities in what many believe to be politically motivated circumstances. This led to protests resulting in clashes with police forces, culminating in the death of 5 people in Jalalabad. As May approached, the authorities further extended their hold on power, imprisoning the vocal former presidential ally, Felix Kulov, to 10 years for alleged abuses of office. During the same month, the entire government resigned, accepting blame for the loss of life during the protests earlier in the year. A new government led by Nikolai Tanayev was then formed. In November, the president faced yet more protests, as the opposition announced it would march on the capital and demand his resignation. The police reacted by arresting large amounts of demonstrators.